Today we're heading deep into the heart of Africa, through the eyes of a woman who didn't just pass through, but stayed. Jeri Lynn Johnson Russell started as a Pan Am stewardess, traveling the world in a crisp blue uniform with wings on her lapel. But something called her to a different kind of adventure, one that would take her from the high-altitude service cars to dusty roads in Botswana, village clinics in Eswatini, and classrooms in Ghana. She now lives in Cape Town with her husband Bill, and she's just released a memoir called A Bluebird in a Baobab, a beautiful collection of stories and reflections from those years. It's also kind of a travel book, which is why I asked her to sit down with me and talk about her time in Africa. In this episode, Jeri shares tales of connection, culture shock, and the deep human stories she found along the way. Stories that reminds us what happens when you follow your gut across the ocean and let the continent change you. So grab your backpack, or at least your earbuds, and let's go meet her.
Meet Palebo. At 50, he traded comfort for curiosity, and now the world is his office. This is the Radio Vagabond.
I was invited to dinner by Jeri and Bill in their wonderful apartment in Sea Point, Cape Town. They'd cooked an amazing meal, and Brazilian music played in the background. After dinner, we turned down the music, and I asked her to start by sharing a little bit about her background.
My life story in 2 minutes. Whoa. Midwest girl, born in the USA, Chicago to Appleton, Wisconsin. Excited to leave Appleton, Wisconsin, but grateful for the safety of such an awesome hometown because I always knew I could come back. So I had a lot of courage, and I was an exchange student. That gave me courage to go to other places. It was a time and a place where there was no English spoken anywhere. I once bought a Time magazine for $8 out of the 25 that I had for the 4 months because I wanted to read some English. So it was a different world, but it gave you a lot of courage, and it ignited a spark.
So Jeri grew up in the Midwest, from Chicago to Appleton, Wisconsin, but always had a curiosity about the world, and that brought her to the country of samba and caipirinhas.
Kind of a gap year thing. Usually exchanges are a half a year or a full year.
Right.
This was 4 months, and it was a life-changing 4 months.
Where?
In Vitória Espírito Santo, in between Salvador Bahia and Rio de Janeiro.
Wow. Becoming an exchange student in Brazil at 18 was an experience that ignited a spark. But that spark didn't come from wanderlust alone. It also came from her parents, who always encouraged her to go for it, and from a childhood that they also spent exploring Montana's cowboy country. And so, she did go for it, traveling the world as a stewardess for American Airlines and then for Pan Am.
That was the job of dreams. It was the best company. All of us who ever worked there will tell you it was the best company they ever worked for. It was a family. And they did so many good things for aviation and so many good things for people in other countries. It was really a most exceptional time in my life.
Yeah. And you flew all over the world?
All over the world, and met all kinds of amazing people, and everybody who worked for the company loved it so much.
Yeah.
You wanted your kids to work for that company. You would do anything for that company. It's an idea we don't have clearly now anymore, but it was a really right time, right place, lucky thing in my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is the captain speaking.
For Jeri, working for Pan Am was more than a job. It was a family. She flew all over the world, meeting people from all walks of life. But even in those jet-set years, something deeper was calling. Her life took a little detour into radio broadcasting on Long Island before she found her way to Africa.
So Africa was already on the table back then?
It was, but not the first time, because it was under apartheid, and I did not want to go. There was a big vehement protest situation at Pan Am, but when work says go, you go. So I went.
Africa wasn't part of the original plan, but life and love had a way of steering her path. She met a man in Johannesburg, fell in love, and eventually moved there. But it wasn't just romance. It was a calling to understand and connect with a different world.
Throughout many, many African countries, I had very interesting and wonderful and worrisome experiences in old Africa of 30 years ago.
Yeah.
40 years ago.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Jeri's first experiences in Africa were shaped by apartheid-era tensions, a landscape that she found both deeply troubling and deeply inspiring. It was her work as a homeopath, a practice she first discovered in Johannesburg that would become her way of giving back. But it came much later, because then she met her current husband, Bill, and they ended up moving to London, starting a family.
We lived there for 17 years, and it was great. I was delighted to raise my kids in such an intelligent and warm and generous country.
Yeah.
Shame about the weather, but everything else about the UK.
Well, they do have a nice summer, that 1 week.
You are exactly right. That 1 week is awesome.
You're listening to the Radio Vagabond podcast. The next stop will be Africa.
In their UK years, Jeri was working as a therapist.
So I'm a therapist, and I thought, okay, I need something that is going to excite me and thrill me that I can keep learning when the kids are out of school, and that was homeopathy. I had learned about it, first of all, in Africa, in Johannesburg, in the mid-1980s.
At that time, Jeri was suffering from a lifelong strep throat, and she traveled as a Pan Am stewardess with her antibiotics at all time. And when she moved to Johannesburg was where she experienced the power of homeopathy firsthand, where it cured her of a stop-and-throat condition that the antibiotics couldn't touch.
How did I get into homeopathy? I was cured in Johannesburg when I was almost 30 years old of something that had plagued me for 15 years. And with 2 treatments of 2 amazing homeopaths, I was cleared of something that wouldn't go away ever.
Homeopathy is a form of alternative medicine based on the idea that like treats like, using tiny doses of natural substances to treat symptoms.
Homeopathy is a 200-year-old method of, it's a medical healing system that is based on the idea of like treats like. All right, I'm going to say that you have seasonal allergies. You get a runny nose, your eyes are dripping, you might get a scratchy back of the throat. Another person gets a seasonal allergy, they get a sinusitis. Another person gets a seasonal allergy, and their skin is itching. In allopathic medicine, all of us would take an antihistamine type drug. But in homeopathy, I want to get rid of your pouring eyes, your running nose, and your scratchy throat. It sounds to me like when I peel an onion. So I'm going to give you a remedy made of onion.
Different to a person who's having a skin issue. It's different to a person who gets serious headaches.
I'm also going to throw a plug in for local honey, which is homeopathy at its best. Tiny bits of pollen from your neighborhood that are causing you distress. That's not honey from, I don't know, Nigeria, France, anywhere. It's local honey from 5 blocks from your house. That's what's causing you the problem. And a 1/4 teaspoon of that every day for a half a year could easily get rid of your seasonal allergies.
Interesting.
Like treats like.
Now, some people might roll their eyes at homeopathy. Critics argue that there are no scientific proof behind these tiny sugar pills, onions, or drops of honey. But for Jeri, it wasn't about lab results. It was about what worked for her and what she saw work for others, especially in communities where Western medicine wasn't always available and trusted. Jeri says that it was a revelation and something that would shape her journey across Africa for the next 15 years. We're just getting started. After a quick break, Jeri shares how she built deep connections in African villages and the story of a single word, love. But before we continue, I'd like to give you a podcast recommendation. If you like this podcast, you'll probably also like the one called The Open Nesters Podcast. It's about empty nesters from all backgrounds who also make bold decisions to reimagine their lives, not just through travel and lifestyle, but also about relationships, love, sexuality, and aging. I learned so much from their guests and experts, and know that you will too. Find and follow it in your favorite podcast app. Again, it's called The Open Nesters Podcast, opennesters.com.
Travel isn't just about places, it's about the people. The Radio Vagabond. Gotta keep moving. Gotta keep moving. Gotta keep moving. Gotta keep moving.
Welcome back to this week's episode. When Jeri moved to Africa, she didn't come as a missionary or a savior. She came as a student, ready to learn. And in the rural villages of Botswana, Eswatini, and Ghana, she discovered the power of community.
You know what? The number one rule is, I am a visitor. I am coming to the place that you live. These things have been decided over many, many hundreds of years. I am a guest. If I try to bring in the things that I think to be true, it could be very untrue. So you have an open mind at all times. You open your eyes, your ears, your heart.
Jeri's approach was simple. Be humble. She didn't try to inflict her culture or beliefs. She listened. She learned. She let Africa teach her. One of the most powerful stories Jeri shared was about a day she spent in a tiny village outside a town, treating patients with her receptionist, Olo.
We pull up, there's a circular group of huts and houses around, all kind of little naked kids and hot, and they're all under a tree. We park the car. And so I look at the paperwork she hands me, and there's a young woman who has had a brain tumor. And this was, I think maybe February. And the team that had been in earlier had come to see her September, October, November, and early December. And she was being treated for the headaches, numerous things. She's laying on top of about 5 very thin mattresses on top of a platform. So I ask all the questions, and the mother says, I'll call her Susie. Susie can't see and hear now. All right, so this has been a very catastrophic 6-8 weeks that the brain tumor has grown, and it's dire. Anyway, she goes, but she still likes to eat. However, she's got a bloated tummy, and I could see her big, distended, very hard, shiny tummy. I get some more information, and then my receptionist and translator and myself walk back to the car. And I put together all the remedies, and I'm going to tell her how she's going to explain to the mother how to give the remedies. And she goes, Susie is my friend. She hadn't told me that before. She goes, she was the most popular girl in our school. All the boys loved her, and all the girls loved her.
What started as just another home visit became something unforgettable. Susie, not her real name, now lying on a bed of a thin mattress, a brain tumor leaving her blind and deaf.
And there is my little receptionist in all of her beauty, and she says, let's just stay a minute. And she puts her finger on her friend's hard, round tummy. And she writes I with her index finger. And then she paused, and then she wrote L with her index finger. And then O, and then V, and then E. And on that hard, round tummy, she wrote U, and then she waited. And then she wrote O, L, O.
So Olo traced the words, I love you, Olo, on her friend's belly. A quiet act of connection, a language of love when sight and hearing was gone. For Jeri, that moment captured everything she'd learned in Africa.
And I thought love had found a way. When you can't see and you can't hear, she communicated with her friend.
In a world where technology and distractions can cloud what matters, she saw that it was these simple gestures of care and community that endure. As Jeri moved on, she don't know what happened to Olo's friend Susie. And that can be frustrating when you connect to someone.
Once in a while, I see that.
Yeah.
But usually, there are a couple of patients who stood out, who were just exceptional, who I loved to pieces, and I would ask whatever happened with them. Sometimes somebody would know. I had a chief who had had a stroke, thankfully, the day before we came, and so I never prescribed with more care and concern because this man held the village together. Yeah. And I knew nobody would be back for 4 or 5 months, so I had to prescribe and have his wife understand every possibility for the next 3 or 4 months, so that we got in soon was good. And a few years later, I heard that he was still alive and, quote, old. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you remember things like that if he was such an important person.
Yeah.
Jeri spent more than a decade working across Botswana, Eswatini, and Ghana, and always as a guest, never an intruder. She was there to share homeopathy, to help where she could, but mostly to learn.
I learned more from everybody that I ever worked with than they ever learned from me, even in a teaching capacity.
Yeah.
My goal is, and I had amazing translators. The goal is, I'm coming here, I'm going to share what I know. I'm happy if you'll share what you know. It isn't another thing. Infliction is not ever, to me, an idea that works well.
No. But I guess there was some points where you thought, why are they doing it like that?
I don't know why. I don't have that idea. Why are they doing it like that? I'm here to learn, so I want to know why they're doing it like that.
Yeah, so it wasn't, why are they doing it? It's like, why are they doing it?
Why?
Yeah.
Let me learn about this.
Yeah.
And I will tell you one thing. When you were in the back of Beyond, this Western girl doesn't have any skill set to find water, to find food.
Oh, no.
To get out of a tough situation. I relied on all of my very local experts who took very good care of me.
Yeah. So, it was mostly Botswana, Eswatini, Ghana, and...
That's mostly it.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to be a homeopath here in South Africa because they have very strict rules and the most superb training in this country ever.
Really?
Ever. Homeopathy has been around for a long time here, and they've got a great program, and they work hand in hand with the hospitals. How's that for an idea?
Yeah.
I can't set a bone, but I can make sure if the doctor says, what should we use to bring the blood flow here? What should we use to strengthen the muscles as this man heals? What should we use for tendons or nerves?
Yeah.
What a team when we hold hands together. And my heart transplant guy says, what is a homeopathic remedy to strengthen the heart, the weakness that has come on over these 6 months of him being in bed, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're better together.
Yeah, where I'm from it's more like they're on fighting each other and saying, they're quacks. I'm a doctor. I know what's good. But yeah, I like that approach.
Yep, and we each step back and say, you're the expert here. Your turn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a team sport, actually.
Right, it's a team sport. Everyone has a role to play, and the patient is right in the middle of it. And that's what drew her back year after year.
Meeting local strangers, friends for life. Through their stories, he sharpens his mind. Grab your passport, come along for the ride. The world is the stage, no place to hide. He's the Radio Vagabond, always grooving.
Coming up after the break, how a tiny Ghanaian village became Jeri's second home, and what the Baobab tree has to do with everything. We'll be right back. This episode is recorded with the Nomono sound capsule. I'm always on the go, recording in bustling cities, remote villages, and sometimes even in the middle of nowhere. And let me tell you, the Nomono sound capsule has been an absolute game changer for me. Imagine having a portable podcast studio that fits in your backpack. The Nomono sound capsule is an all-in-one recording kit that includes 4 wireless microphones and a spatial audio recorder. It's designed for creators who, like me, are always on the move. Just press one button and you're recording. No wires, no internet, no hassle. Once you're back online, all your recordings sync seamlessly to the Nomono cloud. The built-in AI tools clean up your audio, removing noise and balancing everything so you sound your best. It's saved me hours in post-production and ensures that my episodes have that immersive, professional feel every time. As a proud Nomono brand ambassador, I'm excited to share this with you. If you're a podcaster and want to elevate your podcast with studio quality sound wherever you go, check out the Nomono sound capsule at nomono.co.
Suitcase in one hand, microphone in the other. He's chasing stories that don't make the guidebooks. This is the Radio Vagabond.
And we're back. After all these years, there's one place in Africa that still calls to Jeri's heart. Mafi Kumasi, a small village in Ghana.
I'm very close to a village in Ghana called Mafi Kumasi, and that has to do with the man that runs the clinic there.
That was where she met a local healer.
He has held his village together during very, very difficult times.
A man trained in India who became a rock for his community during the toughest times.
He has stories that you would never believe. He kept making wherever he lived better and better and better.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good way to be in the world.
A story that echoes the proverb I mentioned in my earlier episode from Ghana. Wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one person can wrap their arms around it. Meaning you need others. You need community. Jeri's book, A Bluebird and a Baobab, says it all. The bluebird, that's Jeri, a foreigner from North America. The baobab, Africa's mighty tree of life. Together they create a story of blending, learning, and mutual respect.
You are reading that right. I'm the one who comes in and out. Bill used to say I was his bluebird in my blue uniform. But a bluebird
and
is...
you had wings on.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm the one who comes in and out onto this quintessential continent, this tree that has supported millions of people for millions of years, and this continent stays steady no matter what. It grows back on itself the minute you leave. But the people here, that is the steady story. That's a story that I wanted to tell. There are so many resilient, resourceful, amazing people, the people who are my students, the people who supported us through many villages and many towns, and my amazing patients and their families who have a lot to teach all of us.
Jeri's book isn't just a travel memoir. It's a meditation on the power of curiosity and empathy. As Jeri told me, the real story of true human beings is that we're better together. We've never done all this by ourselves. As I listened to Jeri, I couldn't help reflect on my own travels across Africa. The same warmth, the same laughter and music that she found. For Jeri, it's not about the sights and the souvenirs. It's about the people and the values they hold.
I see such a deep generosity. I look sometimes at the Western world where there is so very much, and sometimes it doesn't seem to be enough. I think there's a hole somewhere else in somebody's soul when so much is not enough. I look at lots of people who are rich with family, friends, laughter, music, learning.
Yeah.
I watch students who are so overjoyed at the opportunity to get an education.
Yeah.
I look at all kinds of things that are not so far removed from us. 50 years, we need to all take a step back and say, what are the things that matter? And it is each other. And it is we move forward with one another.
In a world that often feels divided, Jeri's message is simple. We're better with all ages, all kinds of people, all cultures. We need one another.
We'll be right back.
I want to share some exciting news. I've been super busy with producing a brand new podcast that we just launched. It's called the Nomad Summit Podcast, and it's your essential guide to the digital nomad lifestyle. Every week, my co-hosts, Christoph, Alexandra, and I dive deep into the real stories behind the nomad lifestyle. We talk about the joys, challenges, and everything in between. From the best nomad hotspots and the latest remote work trends to the practicalities of visas and taxes. You'll hear from inspiring voices in the nomad community, get insider tips, and learn how to thrive while living on the road. This podcast isn't just about listening. It's about being a part of a community that's always moving forward, exploring and sharing. You'll even get some behind-the-scenes stories from the Nomad Summit events and a look at what makes this global community so special. So if you're curious about the nomad lifestyle or already living it, follow the Nomad Summit podcast wherever you're listening right now. As our conversation drew to a close, I asked Jeri how all these years in Africa had changed her and how she now sees the Western world that she came from.
It seems extremely excessive at times. And of course, you get back to a place where what are the things that really matter? What are the things that really matter? On the last day, it's never how much did I have in the bank, how many dresses did I have, whatever it is. Who did you love and who loved you back? It's that simple. Who was there? And people that I've worked with are aware of it every single day. There's no confusion about any of it. The amount of sharing, especially during the HIV epidemic.
Jeri told me that in Africa, she saw a different way of living, one where generosity, community, and laughter always came first, where people lean on each other in times of crisis, and no one was left alone.
If somebody didn't have food, you knew somebody would step in to help, even if that meant you're taking care of your sister's 3 children and your 3 children, but the neighbors are struggling. We'll all eat a half of a yam tonight.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow I may need help, and they'll be there.
Yeah.
And it's a very different way to live in the world.
It is.
And it's a much better way.
For Jeri, it's a reminder that in the end, it's not about what we own. It's about who we share it with. A lesson that has guided her long after she left the dusty roads of Africa. Hearing Jeri's stories resonate with me too. I've traveled to more than half of the countries in Africa, including the ones that Jeri is talking about. And just like Jeri, I've found that the real treasures of travel are never the things you pack. They're the friendships and the open hearts you meet along the way.
This continent is so creative, with music, with arts, with expertise, with vast amounts of community, resilience, resourcefulness. It's an amazing, amazing place that I wanted people to know about.
There are so many resilient, resourceful, amazing people, she says. That's the story that Jeri wants to share, and the story we're left with today. As we're wrapping up our conversation, I asked Jeri for one place in Africa where she's been that she would send me to do an episode for this podcast. Where would that one place be, and who should I talk to?
Gosh, I'd love you to go to the Okavango Delta.
Which is where?
Which is in Botswana.
Yeah.
I would love for you to be in the back of Beyond there. I could have a number of things. I once met some herbologists they were tracking all the plants before they're gone and talking to witch doctors, finding they were 75 years old, this couple. If you could find them, if they're still alive, I'd love you to talk to them. I'd love you to talk to the couple that we stayed with who had such a fine, good, strong marriage, an Afrikaner couple, who were so rich with the important things. I've done a lot of marital counseling. They had it all. And one of the young gals I worked with said, "What is the key to a happy marriage?" And I said, "Go look at that traditional marriage." They had faith together. They had fun together. They had good friendships together. They had the same value system together. Yeah. It's not rocket science. Your great-grandma knew all about it. So maybe I'd have you talk to them.
I had a feeling you would mention a lot of things. I guess you didn't hear the question. If you could
I
mention
didn't.
only
One, the answer is not one.
But that's totally
I'm bad
fine.
at that.
That's totally fine. Thank you so much. The book is called A Bluebird in a Baobab, and it's out now. And I will put the links to where you can get it in the show notes for this episode. Thank you so much, Jeri.
Thanks for
and
having
thank
me.
you for a wonderful dinner.
I appreciate it. It was loads of fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Jeri Lynn Johnson Russell, author of A Bluebird in a Baobab. And if you ask me, a true kindred vagabond spirit. You can find her book, print or audiobook, wherever you get your stories. And if you ever wondered whether it's too late to reinvent your life or do something wildly different, well, Jeri's journey might just be the nudge you needed. As always, you can find photos, links, and much more about this episode on theRadioVagabond.com. And if you like this conversation, tell a friend, or even better, tell a stranger on a bus somewhere. My name is Palabo, and I gotta keep moving. See ya.
Radio Vagabond. Produced by RadioGuru.co.uk.